I'm Laura, 32 years old, and I used to believe family dinners were about connection, not traps. The disbelief hit me when my mom shoved that debt paper across the table, her voice sharp. Your sister's $38,000 debt, it's your responsibility. My sister leaned back smirking as if she'd already won. When I said no, Mom slapped my face, a betrayal sharper than any words. I didn't yell or cry. I stood up, walked out, and let the door slam shut on 15 years of unfairness. 2 years later, I'm in my own Portland townhouse while their world crumbles under the weight of their own choices. Stick manipulation around to see how I turn there into my freedom. Before coming to my story, I want to know what time you are listening and what city you're in. I am happy to know how far my story spreads. I was 16 when I started my revenge ledger, a spiral notebook hidden under my mattress in our Boston home, where I recorded every slight, every unfair choice my parents made. It wasn't a diary of feelings, it was evidence, a blueprint to understand their game and one day turn it against them. My first entry began the day I got my job at Whole Foods, pushing carts and ringing up groceries for 20 hours a week after school. My hands ached from scanning items, but I saved $3,000 over 2 years to buy a used Toyota with a rattling engine. I was proud, thinking my effort would earn their respect. Then my sister, 2 years older, turned 18, and Mom and Dad handed her the keys to a shiny new Ford, no questions asked. She needs reliable transport for her art classes, Dad said, his voice firm, as if my after-school shifts were less important. In my ledger, I wrote, they justify her gifts with potential, but my work gets lectures about responsibility. Pattern, they invest in her future, not mine. That entry set the tone. I didn't cry or complain, I observed, analyzed, and documented. Each page was a weapon sharpening my understanding of their bias. I noted how Mom bought my sister new paints and brushes while I scoured clearance racks for school clothes. You're so practical, Laura, Mom would say, her smile masking the sting. Your sister needs to fit in with her creative crowd. My ledger analysis, they frame my sacrifice as maturity, her indulgence as necessity. This is deliberate, not accidental. At 18, I headed to NYU, my scholarships totaling $7,000 for the first year, but I still needed to borrow $50,000 to cover tuition and books. I worked 2 jobs, stocking shelves at the campus bookstore and steaming milk at a coffee shop near Washington Square. My days started at 5:30 in the morning and ended past midnight with assignments. My sister, meanwhile, started college 2 years later at a private art school. Mom and Dad co-signed a lease for her 1-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from campus, complete with new furniture and a sleek laptop for her digital portfolio. During one of our weekly calls, Mom's voice bubbled with excitement. We're helping her focus on her art without distractions. When I asked how she managed rent, Dad cut in, we're covering it. Her scholarship handles tuition, but living expenses are on us. In my ledger, I scribbled, they pay for her comfort while I drown in loans. Pattern. My struggle is expected, her success is funded. The ledger grew heavier during my junior year. I overheard Mom and Dad in the kitchen one night home for a rare weekend. We've saved enough for her art school and exhibits. Dad said, his voice low. What about my college fund? I asked, stepping into the room, unable to stay silent. Mom paused, then said, yours is smaller, Laura. You've always been so capable. My ledger entry that night was sharp. They planned my fund to be limited, banking on my capability to survive. This isn't fairness, it's strategy to prioritize her. By 28, I was done being the family's scapegoat, but I didn't let them know it. My revenge ledger had taught me their game favor Megan burdened me, so I shifted from victim to strategist, building a plan to outmaneuver them without a single raised voice. I stopped complaining, letting Mom and Dad believe I'd accepted my role as the responsible one. Their praise, like, you're so independent, Laura, became my camouflage. Behind it, I was crafting a fortress of financial independence and gathering intel to predict their next move. My goal wasn't to confront, it was to be ready when they inevitably came to me for help, assuming I'd fold. My first step was cutting off any hint of weakness. I never mentioned my struggles, not the late nights debugging code in my tiny San Francisco studio or the ramen dinners to save every cent of my $42,000 salary. Instead, I nodded through Mom's Sunday calls, letting her ramble about my sister's latest art exhibit or Ethan's new tricycle. That's great, I'd say, my voice steady while I jotted notes in my mind. I knew silence was power, they'd reveal more if I didn't push back. When Dad asked if I was managing okay, I lied, everything's fine. I wasn't giving them an opening to pity or control me. Financial independence became my obsession. My student loans, still $45,000, loomed large, but I attacked them with precision. I downloaded investing apps, learned about index funds, and funneled every bonus into extra loan payments. My spreadsheet tracked every expense, rent, groceries, even coffee runs, ensuring I'd be debt-free in 7 years. At work, I volunteered for tough projects, impressing my manager, Susan, who saw my drive. By 29, I landed a senior IT role in Los Angeles with an $85,000 salary, a leap that let me rent a one-bedroom apartment with a sliver of an ocean view. I didn't tell my family. They didn't need to know I was building a life they couldn't touch. To stay ahead, I turned into a detective of their financial patterns. Megan's Instagram was a goldmine. Posts of her new designer bags, art supplies, and weekend getaways with David screamed reckless spending. I cross-checked with Mom's casual mentions during calls. Your sister's struggling with gallery cuts, but we're helping with their rent. I calculated their house in a Boston suburb likely had a $2,000 monthly mortgage covered partly by my parents' savings. Dad's voice tightened when he mentioned his upcoming retirement, a clue they were stretching thin. My ledger had taught me their weakness. They'd always bail Megan out no matter the cost. I waited knowing that dependence would be their downfall. Relationships were another front. In San Francisco, I met Michael, an architect who lived down the hall. Over coffee dates that turned into dinners, I opened up about my family's bias. That's not normal, he said, his brow furrowed. Parents shouldn't play favorites like that. His words validated me, but I kept him at arm's length. I couldn't afford emotional dependence. When he pushed for weekend trips I couldn't fund without derailing my loan plan, we parted ways amicably. I wasn't bitter. I was focused. Instead, I leaned on Rebecca, a friend from a Los Angeles running group. She listened to my stories without judgment, offering sharp advice. They're using you as a safety net. Don't let them. Her clarity fueled my resolve. I maintained a facade of family loyalty to keep them off guard. I sent Ethan a stuffed animal for his first birthday, ordered online to avoid visits. When Mom invited me to Thanksgiving, I cited work deadlines, sparing myself the $300 bus fare. We wish you'd prioritize family. Dad said, his tone heavy with guilt. I smiled through the phone. I'll try next time. But I was playing the long game. Every call, every post, every hint of their spending was data. I knew Megan's lifestyle was unsustainable, and my parents' blind support would drain them. My plan was simple: stay invisible, grow stronger, and wait for their overreach. By 30, I was ready to build my empire, a fortress of success that my family couldn't breach. My plan was in motion: stay under their radar, grow stronger, and let their dependence on me become their weakness. I threw myself into my career, my finances, and a new circle of friends, all while wearing the mask of the dutiful daughter. They thought I was still their reliable Laura, but I was crafting a life they'd never touch. In San Francisco, my IT job had me coding late into the night, but my hustle paid off. My manager, Susan, noticed my knack for solving complex bugs and handed me a lead role on a major client project. By 30, I'd climbed to a senior developer position in Los Angeles, earning $85,000 a year. The raise let me trade my cramped studio for a one-bedroom apartment with a balcony overlooking a quiet courtyard. I furnished it with second-hand finds from thrift stores and online marketplaces, each piece a symbol of my independence. I didn't tell Mom or Dad about the promotion. They'd only see it as a chance to lean on me later. Instead, I sent generic texts, "Work's going well." Their replies, always about my sister's art shows or Ethan's milestones, confirmed they weren't paying attention. My financial strategy was relentless. My student loans down to $30,000 were my main target. I poured every extra dollar, bonuses, tax refunds, even side gigs building small business websites, into paying them off. I lived lean, cooking budget meals and skipping vacations. My spreadsheet was my lifeline, tracking rent, utilities, and a small emergency fund that hit $5,000 by my 31st birthday. I didn't need their help, and I wouldn't give them a reason to think I did. Meanwhile, I overheard Mom on a call, her voice strained. "Your sister's gallery isn't paying much these days." I didn't ask for details. I knew she'd never admit they were still covering Megan's bills. Building a chosen family became my anchor. In Los Angeles, my running group introduced me to Sarah, a graphic designer who became a close friend. Over coffee, she'd share her own stories of cutting off toxic relatives, her advice sharp. Don't let them guilt you into being their bank. Rebecca, now a constant in my life, invited me to her book club, where I met people who valued me for my ideas, not my utility. These connections were different. No expectations, no scorekeeping. They filled a void my family never could. When Mom called to ask why I skipped Christmas, I blamed a tight work schedule, avoiding the truth. I couldn't afford the $500 flight, and I didn't want their pity. "Family's important, Laura," she said, oblivious to the irony. To keep my cover, I played the part of the good daughter from a distance. I mailed Ethan a puzzle set for his second birthday ordered from a discount site. I commented congrats on Megan's social media posts about her new art series, even as I noticed her designer shoes and luxury vacations. During calls, I asked vague questions. How's the house holding up? Dad's answers hinted at strain. Mortgage rates are tough, but we're managing. I didn't push, but I filed it away. Their spending on Megan's lifestyle, Ethan's toys, their own renovated kitchen was a ticking time bomb. I knew they'd overreach soon and I'd be ready to step out of their trap. My career kept climbing. In Los Angeles, I led a team of junior developers delivering a software overhaul that earned our firm a national client. Susan pulled me aside after the pitch. You're going places, Laura. Her belief in me was a stark contrast to my parents' indifference. I didn't share the win with them. Why bother when they'd redirect the conversation to Megan's latest painting? Instead, I celebrated with Sarah and Rebecca over cheap wine in my apartment, laughing about office politics and planning a hiking trip. These moments free from family weight fueled me. By 31, their trap was set, and I walked into it with my eyes wide open. My parents' email hit my inbox with the subject line urgent family matter, a phrase that sent my pulse racing with worry. Someone sick, someone hurt. I called Dad immediately, my voice tight. Is everyone okay? I asked. We're fine, he said, too calm. But we need to talk in person. Can you come to Boston next weekend? I hesitated, my gut screaming caution, but I couldn't say no without seeming cold. I'll fly in Saturday, I said, booking a morning flight and a same-day return, sensing I'd need an escape. The flight to Boston was smooth, but anxiety churned as I drove my rental car up the familiar driveway of our family home. The same red brick facade, the same manicured lawn, but it felt like enemy territory. I gripped my purse, steeling myself, and rang the bell. Mom opened the door, her smile warm but strained. Laura, you're here, she said, pulling me into a quick hug. Dad appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. Good to see you, kid, he said, his tone overly cheerful. They led me inside, and I noticed the changes. A new leather sofa, polished hardwood floors, a gleaming chandelier. Their renovations screamed money, yet Dad had hinted at tight finances on our last call. My suspicions grew. We sat in the living room making small talk about Boston traffic and their neighbor's new dog. I kept my answers short, watching their faces for clues. At 5 sharp, my sister arrived with David and Ethan, her 3-year-old son. Hey, Laura, she said, her voice bright but her eyes darting away. David gave a nod, holding Ethan, who clutched a new toy truck. Mom swooped in, scooping Ethan up. There's my favorite boy, she cooed, carrying him to see a new playroom upstairs. Dad slapped David on the back, steering him to the patio. Got a new grill to show you, he said. I stood alone, ignored the familiar exclusion settling in my chest. Dinner was served at 6, a spread of Megan's favorites: roast chicken, garlic, mashed potatoes, and pecan pie. None of my old preferences like grilled vegetables or pasta. The conversation revolved around Ethan's preschool antics and Megan's upcoming art fair. You should come, Laura, Mom said, almost as an afterthought. If work allows, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Ethan grew fussy, pushing his plate away, and my sister stood. I'll take him upstairs to play, she said, glancing at Mom. I'll help, Mom said, following her out. The room shifted, a tension I could feel in my bones. Dad cleared his throat, his eyes meeting mine. Laura, we need to talk about something serious, he said, his voice low. My sister returned alone, sitting across from me, her posture stiff. Dad continued, your sister's hit a rough patch. The gallery cut her hours and she's got some debt. I nodded, waiting. Mom slid back into her seat, pulling a folder from under a serving tray. It's $38,000 in credit card debt, she said, her voice firm but laced with guilt. From art supplies, some travel things for Ethan. I glanced at the folder, my heart sinking as I saw loan papers with my name already typed in the co-signer slot. We can't cover it, Dad said, leaning forward. With my retirement coming and some medical bills, we're stretched thin. My sister finally spoke, her tone sharp. You're doing so well, Laura. It's just temporary until I get back on my feet. Her words echoed their old playbook. My success was their safety net. I scanned the table, noticing the new silverware, the expensive wine they'd poured. Their renovated house, Ethan's toys, Megan's designer earrings, all screamed they had money, just not for their own mess. Why me? I asked, keeping my voice even. Mom's face hardened. Because family steps up, she said, pushing the papers toward me. You don't have kids or a mortgage. You can handle this. My sister's lips twitched, a hint of a smirk, as if she'd already won. I saw it then, the trap premeditated, built on years of expecting me to carry their burdens. They'd planned this banking on my sense of duty. My ledger had predicted it. Their spending would outpace their means and I'd be their fix. I didn't react, just stared at the papers. My mind raced, connecting their renovated home to Dad's tight finances, their lavish dinner to Megan's rough patch. This wasn't a family meeting, it was an ambush, and they'd crafted it to guilt me into signing. I thought of Rebecca's advice: don't let them make you their bank. Every entry in my ledger, every sacrifice I'd made, screamed that I owed them nothing. I pushed the papers back, my voice steady. I need to think about it, I said, buying time. Mom's eyes narrowed, but Dad nodded. Take a minute, he said, expecting compliance. I excused myself to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, my reflection calm but resolute. This was the moment I'd prepared for. Their trap had exposed them, and I was ready to walk away. Back in Los Angeles, I rebuilt my life brick by brick, free from the chains of family expectations. 2 years later, at 33, I stood in my Portland townhouse, a space I'd earned through my own sweat, watching the city skyline glow under a crisp autumn sky. My escape from that Boston dinner wasn't just a walkout, it was the final cut in a lifetime of unfairness. While I thrived, my family's world unraveled, their own choices burying them. My revenge wasn't loud or cruel, it was the silence of my absence, letting their dependence destroy them. My career soared in Portland. I landed a director role at a tech firm, commanding a $95,000 salary, leading a team on cutting-edge software projects that won industry awards. My townhouse, bought with a down payment from my savings, had a cozy living room filled with books and art from local markets. My emergency fund hit $15,000, a safety net I'd built without a single cent from my parents. I wasn't just surviving, I was flourishing, untethered from their demands. My chosen family grew stronger. Rebecca hosted weekly dinners where we debated everything from politics to sci-fi novels. Sarah and her partner invited me to their beach house for barbecues, their laughter a balm for years of isolation. These bonds, built on mutual respect, showed me what family could mean. Therapy with Dr. Grant became my compass. In our sessions, she helped me unpack the scars of my parents' favoritism. They trained you to be their safety net, she said, her voice steady. Your strength was their fallback, but you broke that cycle. I nodded, realizing my worth wasn't tied to their approval. I learned to celebrate my victories, paying off my last $20,000 in loans, signing the deed to my home without needing their validation. My life was mine, defined by choices I made, not burdens they assigned. Meanwhile, my family's collapse was as predictable as my ledger had foreseen. Without me to absorb their costs, their financial house of cards fell. Megan's credit score plummeted below 600 after defaulting on her $38,000 debt. Background checks for art gallery jobs flagged her, leaving her stuck in low-paying freelance gigs. Her marriage with David frayed, their arguments over money spilling onto social media posts I glimpsed through a distant cousin's account. They sold their Mazda to cover bills, a stark contrast to the luxury they'd flaunted. My parents, drained by years of bailing Megan out, faced their own reckoning. Their retirement fund, gutted by her mortgage payments and medical bills, left them scrambling. Dad's voice, once confident, cracked during a rare call to a mutual friend. We might have to sell the house. Mom started marriage counseling, but neighbors whispered about their heated fights, a social embarrassment in their tight-knit Boston circle. Their attempts to reach me were desperate, not remorseful. Unknown numbers lit up my new phone, blocked immediately, leaving voicemails I never answered. Laura, we need to talk. Mom's voice pleaded in one deleted, without a second thought. Megan sent an email through an old work address, begging for a loan just to get by. No apologies, no acknowledgement of their years of bias, just more demands. I didn't respond. They'd spent decades teaching me to be their fixer, but I'd unlearned that lesson. My silence was their punishment, forcing them to face the void I'd once filled. The final twist came a year later when a Christmas card arrived, forwarded from my old Los Angeles address. It featured a staged photo of Mom, Dad, Megan, David, and Ethan. Their smiles forced their holiday sweaters mismatched. Inside, a printed note boasted about Ethan's preschool and Megan's new projects, but Mom's handwritten scrawl betrayed their desperation. Family is about second chances. Call us. I returned it unopened, marked wrong address. They weren't seeking forgiveness, they wanted my wallet. Their collapse wasn't my doing. It was the natural consequence of their choices, exposed by my absence. Standing on my townhouse balcony, I toasted myself with a glass of wine, the Portland lights reflecting my freedom. My revenge wasn't destruction, it was letting their world crumble without me to prop it up. I'd built a life of purpose, surrounded by people who valued me, not my utility. Dr. Grant's words echoed. You chose yourself, and that's power. My family's downfall taught me the ultimate lesson. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. If you've ever had to walk away from toxic ties, know your worth isn't defined by their demands. Share your story below. Have you faced a family trap like mine? How did you break free?